So I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to be able to get through the presentation, which is not all that long, but have some time for questions if folks have time for questions. And then, of course, we roll right into lunch. So folks, I'm anticipating might need a tiny break in between. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Cynthia Greene, and I work with Shelburne Farms and Vermont Feed. I am the Farm to Early Childhood Coalition Coordinator currently. And it is a pleasure to be here to talk with you today about the Farm to School and Early Childhood legislative agenda issue. So hopefully you all are in the right spot, and if not, maybe you'll stay with us and learn a little bit more about this topic. So today I'm just going to really sort of break out a little bit about what Farm to Early Childhood is, why we think it's important that this program be accessible across the state of Vermont. We have a current bill, Matt mentioned it in the very beginning, there's an omnibus bill that has several different food security initiatives within it, and Farm to School and Early Childhood is one of those issues. Talk to you a little bit about the current activities occurring in the state of Vermont geared toward farm to early childhood. And then, of course, we're going to touch on the legislative ask, potentially some talking points. And as I said, answer any questions. For folks, feel free, as I go along, if you have a question, feel free to pop it into the chat box. Natalie's going to help me monitor those. I can try to answer them in the moment if I see it, and if not, I'll try to capture those at the very end. There should be time for that. You can also raise your hand and Natalie can let me know, and we'll go from there. All right, so the issue. It is Farm to School and Early Childhood, also known as FTS and EC. And today's legislative ask, the ask that I really have of you all or any other folks who are interested in the topic, is to really let your legislators know that you support full funding for farm to school and early childhood programs at the $500,000 level. That's a level that's been estimated that will actually succeed in the program being able to expand across the state more equitably, and certainly allow early childhood providers to have access to the full program. As I mentioned, and we'll talk about this, I'll break this out a little bit later, but this particular legislative issue, when we started this session, was a separate issue and is now in an omnibus bill. Started on the Senate side, so it's S100 is the bill, and so legislators can actually support farm to school and early childhood through that bill. For you as individuals, there's also an opportunity to show your support for this legislative agenda issue, and that is you can complete a farm to school and early childhood supporter card. This link happens to be live, but if you go to the Vermont Feed website, and that's vtfeed.org, on one of the banners, there is a message about supporting farm to school and early childhood. If you click on those links and follow those, it's a PDF online fillable form. And so you could fill out those as well. There's also a form that you could write a letter to the editor. So there are lots of ways that you as individuals could also support the effort. So quick history here, just to provide some context. Vermont has enjoyed farm to school for over 2 decades now, which is fantastic. And in around 2000, Vermont Feed was established with the idea of promoting the concept of food and nutrition education in schools and accessing local purchasing as a market for our agricultural community. And so with the advent of sort of that organization moving this concept forward, in 2007 was basically Vermont's landmark kind of legislation for farm to school. It's the Rosa-McLaughlin bill. And that for the first time through legislative actions set up the farm to school program in the state of Vermont. It was geared at that point in time for the K-12 system, so the public school system. Over the next 10 years, a couple of various activities took place to help advance farm to school that are noteworthy, so you can see them here. But it wasn't until 2017 that the Rosa-McLaughlin Act was taken up again for revisions, and this was the first time in 2017 that the Act, it became an act, again, included access for early care and education community to the Farm to School grants programs, which is incredibly exciting to me. And again, we'll tell you a little bit more about what this means and what those types of supports are. So that happened in 2017. In 2018, then the New England Farm to School Institute opened up for early care and education teams to participate in that particular farm to school and early childhood support. And of course, now in 2021, we're seeking full funding for the program. It's noteworthy to say that our current base funding is $171,500. And of course, obviously then in order to scale the farm to school and early childhood program equitably or more equitably across the state, we really do need to get to that $500,000 base funding goal, which is our ask this year. So you can see while the state of Vermont has enjoyed farm to school for many decades, farm to early childhood is relatively new to our state within that timeline. So I figured it was worth spending a little bit of time to tell you what farm to school is all about. And I do have some friends here that are very well versed in farm to school and early childhood. So I welcome anyone to join me if they'd like to jump in. But essentially, farm to early childhood is an integrated approach that seeks to leverage the educational practices and the food purchasing habits at early childhood sites in order to enrich the connections that children, staff, and families have with local fresh foods, nutritious foods, local producers in the agricultural community, and then of course, food and nutrition education. So really helping kids, families, and staff understand where food comes from, how it works within their body, why it's important to have nutritious food, and then create those community connections. In the state of Vermont, we do this through what we've coined the 3 C's of farm to school and early childhood. And they're pretty easy. And the lovely thing about the early childhood community is we do this on a regular basis in our programs all the time. So the first C is really around classroom, and these are in no particular order, so it's not the first C, but AC is the classroom. So this is really accessing early childhood curriculum, our standards, our early learning standards, our program quality standards, how we teach children and how we engage them to, again, promote nutritious food, access to nutritious food, learning about food, learning about healthy habits, learning about where food comes from. And again, there are all kinds of opportunities to create connections to our communities through our classroom and through our curriculum. Another C is the cafeteria, or perhaps for early care and education, it's the kitchen, or cucina, as my friend Betsy likes to say, which I thought was great. And really the cafeteria is about how we use food to gain food access in early care and education settings, the type of foods that we serve. The idea would be that hopefully we would promote local purchasing during the growing season when possible. We might expand that to, of course, dairy in Vermont, eggs, there's beef. There are a variety of products that are available. And again, how children in early childhood programs access that food to support higher quality nutrition in their snacks, in their meals is really important. It's also really important to note that farm to early childhood initiatives can also support those programs who may not participate in CACFP or who may not even offer or serve meals or snacks themselves. So for those programs that have families that provide most of the food, there are still ways that your kitchen can be utilized around food and nutrition education, and of course policies that help promote high quality nutritious food and help families acquire that food for their children's growth and development. And then the third C is really around community. And again, I feel so fortunate in our field where we're constantly in our communities. We go for walks. We do a lot of education outside already. We often will do field trips. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, I certainly hope very soon. We invite folks into our programs to participate in them as well. And so again, the concept around the community, this C, is really about building relationships and primarily with our food systems. It could be the farmer, it could be the person who drives the delivery truck to the bakery. It could be the cook in your program kitchen if you offer meals in your kitchen. So anyone along that line would be considered part of the community and might be very accessible to help children learn about where their food comes from. When all of this is operating really well, of course, that's when we say we intend to have it's an intentional approach, and that's when we have a fully sort of integrated farm to early childhood program. So that's really what it is and how we approach it within Vermont. And why might we want to do this? So studies have shown actually that farm to school and farm to early childhood initiatives really do actually help support the quality of early care and education programs. Currently in Vermont, we are working, or we were working before the STARS evolution work was put on hold, to incorporate some of the initiatives and align those with the STARS program. We're still going to look at that when that work gets picked up a little bit later. But certainly we hope that, if folks are implementing farm to school and early childhood initiatives within their program, that there's a way for them to receive credit, quote unquote, for that work or be recognized for that work within the quality rating and improvement system. And of course, the higher number of stars, most of you know, means that your CCFAP reimbursements increase. So it's also a mechanism to help support the continued improvement of your program, but also access to farm to early childhood initiatives. The other piece, farm to early childhood certainly is aligned with learning and program standards, our Vermont early learning standards, our Vermont guiding principles. Farm to early childhood curriculum has been aligned with the creative curriculum content, also the ITERs and ECHRs, so the environmental rating scales, Head Start performance standards. So there are a lot of different standards that have already been aligned, and those resources are available to folks. It engages families and community. This happens to be a BIPOC family farm in Chittenden County, the Clemens family farm. So again, those community connections to deepen and strengthen our communities. Certainly it supports comprehensive child development. It promotes healthy eating and wellness behaviors. It can advance racial and social equality. And of course, we like to think that there's the potential to develop the next generation of responsible food consumers as well. So there are a lot of really great reasons why farm to early childhood can help support high quality childcare and early ed programming. So current initiatives that we have right now in Vermont that are available to early care and education programs. Our Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets has actually helps promote the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants program. Currently, there are 3 different grants this year that are available to early care and education providers. And the first one was the Community Supported Agriculture Grant, which that application has closed, and the review process is active right now, actually. There was an amazing response. We had 46 applications for the Community Supported Agriculture Grant. And we are, the Agency of Agriculture and those of us who have been doing some review are really interested to figure out how could we potentially add to that pot of money to honor the number of folks with really great applications. So that's one avenue right now. Unfortunately, the application did just close, but it was available this year. And that's really designed to get food directly from the producers in the community supported agriculture sort of format right into early care and education centers so that they can use it, and family childcare providers so that they can use that in their program. The second opportunity through the grants program is the Farm to School and Early Childhood Child Nutrition Grant. That application is actually available right now. That application deadline, I believe, is March 19th. So the deadline is next Friday, as a matter of fact. But this particular grant is a 1-year grant. It's a higher level of money, and it's really around implementing farm to early childhood practices. And it's really geared toward those programs that probably already have a team, they might have an action plan already created, so they're a little bit further along in their thinking about farm to early childhood initiatives in their programming. So that's available right now. And then I did check this morning. I didn't see that the application was available quite yet, but I think it'll be available very soon. The third opportunity this year is around farm to school and early childhood. I didn't get that in there, the vision grant. And this grant is also a one-year grant. It's really about thinking about an innovative approach. It's more of a little bit more of a planning grant. And again, all of these are open to early care and education programs. You might develop a collaborative. We have had collaboratives apply to these resources and supports before. So again, it's a fantastic suite, if you will, of supports. And these are the exact programs that are available through this legislative request that we're making. So the request for that $500,000 will, as you can imagine, expand our availability to offer these types of supports more broadly across the state and support more early care and education providers in accessing them. Another suite of, gotta help her, sorry. Another suite of activities that are currently available to early care and education field is really through Vermont Feed. And one very exciting, I think it's very exciting, new initiative is the Farm to Early Childhood Coalition. This is a new collaborative with our Agency of Agriculture. It's being supported by a federal grant, a national grant, I should say. And the coalition is brand new. We started meeting really in January. It meets monthly. It's open, so if folks are interested, please feel free to connect with me directly and I can give you a little more information about that. Part of the work of the coalition will be to set up a website where we can actually share information. So it's difficult to share information or point people to a place where they can find it. Right now we're using conversations to really get the word out. Another opportunity is for folks to participate in a wide variety of farm to early childhood professional development. And right now, currently for the past several years, we've done that through workshop avenues. We have done that through, we have a credit bearing course. You could take it for 1 credit, 2 credits, or 3 credits, depending on how many modules, either undergraduate or graduate credit. And then we offer technical assistance. And typically, again, it's most of what we do in farm to school and farm to early childhood is really done through a network. It's really done through collaborations. So those professional development programs might occur through Shelburne Farms. They might occur through the Child Adult Care Food Program annual conference, the Early Childhood Conference that the Vermont Association for the Education of Young Children supports annually. We've also participated and offered coursework through the Early Childhood Education Summer Institute. That's the Summer Institute that occurs at Castleton University annually. And then as capacity allows, we try to work with individual programs or individual networks. And we have had a couple of early childhood networks recently reach out to us about doing some collaborative training with an entire network. So again, a wide variety of opportunities there. The last two really quickly then, the Northeast Farm to School Institute. Again, that was on the timeline. That is now open to farm to early care teams, early care and education teams. That application is currently available. You can find it on the Vermont Feed website. And that I believe closes at the end of March for an August institute this year that unfortunately will be virtual, but it will be amazing. And the last part, just to let folks know, a resource and a way to get connected to the farm to school movement as well is the Vermont Farm to School Network. They have their own website. It's a great resource, a great group of folks who are really working on finding the levers, both policy and programmatic and resource to move farm to school and farm to early childhood forward in the state. The last real sort of comment that I have is just a note around the National Farm to School Network. Again, a really great resource. If you want to Google it, it'll just pop up, and they have a wide variety of webinars, white papers, resources for farm to school and early childhood. So why don't you just remind us, we're back to today's legislative ask. It's the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants Program. And really the request to legislators today is to support S100 and fully fund the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants Program at $500,000 annually. I said I would give a little bit of clarity around this. You heard Matt state it, I stated it earlier. Currently, this particular legislative agenda item did get put into an omnibus bill, which is fantastic. The bill holistically looks at food security for children prenatally through age 18, both through early care and education and also through our public school systems. And so the three primary aspects that are now included within S100 are the universal school meals topic, legislative agenda issue, the local purchasing incentive, a legislative issue, and of course, the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants Program. And I just am trying to tell folks this so that you're aware that when you talk about Farm to School and Early Childhood with the legislator and talk about S100, they might come back and say, well, isn't that the Universal School Meals bill? And well, yes, Universal School Meals is in that bill, but so is Farm to School and Early Childhood. And so the same thing with local purchasing. And then really sort of the last part that I had before we open it up to questions if folks are interested was just to provide a couple of talking points. Certainly the reasons for implementing Farm to Early Childhood, that it supports high quality care, that it supports comprehensive child development, it promotes community resilience, it can help with food security. Those are all great talking points. But the talking points that I have up here are ones that have been used. It's always great to remind legislators about this. One of the primary ones that I think is really important, again, because Farm to School and Early Childhood really can assist with food security. There is a component about getting access to local nutritious food, is that the pandemic has greatly impacted food security. We know that 1 in 4 people right now in Vermont are experiencing food insecurity, and that rate actually increases for households with children who might have women as the head of household, and for our BIPOC community. So it's probably closer to about a 1 in 3, we think, for children, for families, for households who have children under the age of 5. So again, it's a really great food security support system as well. And then as you can see, the usual, I'll just note the bullet point that talks about the 93% of early childhood programs offer at least 1 snack or meal during the week, and then 56% of them offer or support local food or use local food in their programs. That's really key when you match that with the bullet right underneath it, which is actually the 4th bullet. That for every dollar that a school or program contributes to the local food system actually puts $1.60 back into Vermont's economy. So the other really great piece about Farm to School and Early Childhood programming is that it actually supports Vermont's economy as well. So I wanted to leave it short and sweet. I think I did that. And I would love to answer any questions that folks have, or if you need me to go back to a slide, I'm happy to do that as well. I'm just going to. Go ahead and stop share real quick.
I see that Rosemary has a question.
Thank you.
Oh, and
I'm
Rosemary,
looking
you
at,
want to go first?
thank you. I'm looking at that last, second to last line. Schools spend $15.5 million on food every year. Is that schools, when the word schools refer to our public school system, does it refer to early childhood programs, or is it all inclusive?
Yeah, that's a really Great question. My understanding is that that data is actually pulled for the K-12 system. One of our challenges, which the coalition, the Farm to Early Childhood Coalition, is probably going to be looking at in the relatively near future, is how to collect more concrete data for the early childhood field. But my understanding, and Betsy, I would defer to you, I think you're here. My understanding is that 15.5 million is really geared toward the school system, the K-12 system. And so any additional spending that early childhood providers participate in would actually be additional money.
All right. No, Betsy?
Yes, I just wanted to say, that's right, Cynthia. That was the number we had for public school system. We'd love a way to get better information on what's happening with early childhood, and over time, hopefully we will.
Thank you.
And I saw, Beth, you asked if the slide deck can be made available. It can. I didn't see a way to upload that into Kuva originally, so I will ask. But yes, I can make this available, and certainly folks can contact me via email if they'd like, and happy to send this along. No doubt about it.
Can I also ask a question? Do we have any sense of how much support there currently is for this bill?
Sure, that's a really great question. And actually, I feel like I skipped a slide because I had it in there originally. Yes, there's actually great support for this bill so far. S100 did start out in our Senate Agriculture. They were the ones that introduced it. It has been voted out of the Senate Agriculture Committee, and I believe is now in, Betsy, remind me, Senate Education.
That's
in
right.
general, yeah, in general, there's great support for this bill. The wonderful thing about farm to school and early childhood in particular is it really is a win-win-win. Children win, our agricultural system wins, our economy wins. So in general, there's a lot of support for farm to school and early childhood. I think this omnibus bill that also incorporates universal school meals and a local purchasing incentive is also very attractive from the food security perspective, and particularly thinking about, building or rebuilding just local equitable food systems in the state, and how to make sure that that food is readily accessible to Vermonters. So there is great support for that for the bill. I anticipate, or I don't anticipate, but the campaign anticipates that this bill will actually meet the crossover deadline. So it will go through the various committees, the Senate committees, be voted off the Senate floor in time for crossover, so that the House will have time to amply digest the bill in the next half of the session. And that's what I know so far. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. And Betsy, do you have any other additional thoughts on that?
No, I just think it's really important for legislators, especially in the days of Zoom, to hear from folks about why legislation or programs like this are important. And I think you might have heard this. I didn't listen to the Universal Meals session earlier, but the thought that we're going to go back to the way things were, the way things were not the ideal. Like, we're striving for more equity in the system. We're striving to get rid of, the tiers of which kids are receiving fresh, nutritious food and which programs, and really try to create more, universal access to really good nutrition across the state. And at the same time, knowing we have to invest in our agricultural economy. So you can do both. Cynthia, I think you said it well, this win-win of being able to look at the next few years of recovery and rebuilding our economy, the fact that food insecurity isn't going to go away, and programs like this just really help families. So I think I can't emphasize enough how important it is to just have your voice out there in any form, even just a, thank you for supporting, or this is important. And Beth is asking if there's particular legislators at this point. Right now we're focusing on senators so that we meet the crossover date. And then once it passes, we'll be focusing on the House. I can get in touch with you, Beth, more directly.
But I would also highly encourage folks, I mean, regardless, the bill needs to pass on both chamber floors. So it's great if your representative or senator hears from you and know that you support S100, and in particular, fully funding the Farm to School and Early Childhood program. So even just that sort of quick snippet is really helpful for any representative to hear. Other questions about this agenda item as an agenda item or its process, or questions about Farm to Early Childhood? I feel like I spent quite a bit of time sort of describing what it is, but it's still a relatively new concept. So happy to answer any additional questions that on either of those two areas. Rosemary?
How is the programming implemented within the early childhood programs? Do you have people who go and present? Do you train staff? Do you send materials? How does that work?
All of the above. Primarily right now, so I'm going to, pardon me for jumping back, but I think what I will do is, I can get my slides to go backwards here. So there are a variety of ways that can happen, and my slides won't advance or go back. That's really interesting. They got stuck. Not sure what happened there. So Rosemary, there are a wide variety of ways that we do that. We definitely focus on professional development. So on the slide where I had it sort of broken out by the Agency of Agriculture, and there were the 3 grants, and then Vermont Feed was sort of highlighted as an organizing entity, but then there was a variety of professional development opportunities within that. We definitely do trainings. Like I said, we offer introductory workshops on what Farm to Early Childhood is and why you might do it. Most of these in the past have been hands-on and fairly engaging. And I know Beth has participated in one of those hands-on trainings. Beth Draper-Adolphus, sorry, Beth, to call you out. We also offered, we piloted this last fall and earlier this year, the 3-credit course. So again, providers could take it for training hours. You could take it for undergraduate credit or graduate credit, and that was a much more in-depth type of training about what Farm to Early Childhood is and how you might advance it. And I saw one of our participants today in this group was in that class. I won't call you out, but you know, again, so there are a wide variety. We try to go shallow and deep. There are opportunities at Shelburne Farms that Shelburne Farms offers around education for sustainability, cultivating joy and wonder. That was the phrase I was looking for, is another professional development opportunity. So there's lots of different types of professional development at lots of different levels. I think the other way then that we can help support programs who are interested in implementing Farm to Early Childhood is the grant, the Child Nutrition Program grant. This year it's geared toward those who might already be moving or have some movement, maybe have some professional development under their belt, maybe have a Farm to Early Childhood team together. So it might not be available this year to brand new folks. I would say the Child Nutrition Program grant through the Agency of Agriculture is another really great avenue that also comes with money to implement. So if you have a plan and you have activities you want to implement, you also get money to provide to support that implementation. And then the other opportunity that is available right now, applications, as I said, are available. The process closes at the end of March, but that is the Northeast Farm to School Institute. You can find that information on the Vermont Feed website, and I believe Natalie put the link into the chat. That is actually a really great program. It's a year-long program. We're going to do a virtual kickoff in August this year. Teams come together, they develop their action plan, so their roadmap for what they want to implement, what type of supports they might need, whether it's professional development or technical assistance, and then they get a coach for a year to continue to develop that plan. And what we have found is that for early childhood groups that have participated in the Institute, that positions them very, very well to then apply to some of these other larger grants for implementation. So there's, there are a wide variety of ways. There's also a whole lot of resources. You could visit the Vermont Feed website on the category that says our work early childhood is there. And there are a lot of resources, curricular resources, performance standards like Head Start standards. So again, if you were curious about investigating different types of resources, some of those links are on our Vermont Feed website as well. Great question.
Thank you.
And Amanda, I see in the chat you're asking about gardening programs. So I'll reiterate the Vermont Feed website. On the Vermont Feed website, there's a link to how to fund. And so yes, there are gardening programs. There are grants available to help get gardens set up. Typically speaking, the 3 grants through the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets sort of steer away a little bit from gardening because there are so many other organizations nationally that offer access to gardening grants and gardening supports. That said, certainly, there's a variety of tools and materials folks might need through and be able to access through the Agency of Agriculture grants. But I would steer folks again to the Vermont Feed website, take a look at their funding resources page and do a little investigation. Most of those grants are open right now for gardening because of course gardening should be starting, if you're starting your seeds, would be starting soon. So a lot of those gardening grants, just to set folks up, those become available either late fall or very early spring, basically midwinter, January. So you could look for those now. And Rachel, thanks for the shout out on the class.
Cynthia, I don't know if you can see me, there's pages of people, but I also took the class and it was fantastic and amazing. And I learned so much and there's just so many resources that I gained. But is Vermont Feed the site that you would go to get the free seeds?
I'm glad you asked that. Melanie, I can't see, but I think that's Melanie.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Mel. That's a great question. So the free seeds, no. So I saw Rosemary put the Vermont Extension Master Gardeners. They're a group of volunteers that are great. The other community partner that we work with is the Vermont Community Garden Network.
Yeah, that's what it was. I have it written down, but I couldn't flip through my notebook fast enough, and I just wanted to, because I thought that was
totally
a great
okay.
resource. Yeah,
they're a fantastic resource. They're a really great partner. They help us with technical assistance and training. Libby Weiland is the individual that helps support that. And as Melanie indicated, you can go to their website and request free seeds. They're usually from Vermont seed banks. There are some really high quality seeds and they're free. So folks who are interested in that type of gardening support, yeah, Erica, thanks, could connect with the Vermont Community Garden Network. Libby, also, there is a webinar online that's geared specifically toward early childhood providers about setting up a garden and sort of garden maintenance and how to get your community involved in that. So that's another really great resource as well. And Rosemary, I see your comment about high mowing seeds. That's actually one of the seed banks that Vermont Community Garden Network accesses. So thanks for that. Any thoughts about, are folks feeling, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I think we've all seen this enough and I can't move this. Yes, Jenny, the info about the garden webinar, if you Google Vermont Community Garden Network, and if you search early childhood webinar, you should be able to pull that up. And if you have questions, you can always contact Libby. Her contact information is there and she will point you in the right direction as well. And the other thing I could do, if people would find it helpful at all, it's completely up to you all. I can actually share my screen with Vermont Feed so you know what I'm talking about, since I've referred to it a whole lot. Would that be at all helpful to folks? And if not, my other question was just, are there any thoughts that you have about talking to legislators? Okay, it's 2 minutes. Wow, it goes fast. Thank you, Natalie. Anything else that could be helpful for folks thinking about this legislative issue? I may take 1 minute then. If folks are popping up, that's totally fine, but I will go ahead and share. So this is the Vermont Feed site that you can see. And this is actually the banner. If you click this, this will take you to the Vermont Farm to School Network site, which is where you can sign the supporter card. There's also a letter to the editor if you're interested in that, and you can also access more information about universal school meals. So I was lucky that I caught that, but I can also show you then our work, Farm to Early Childhood. This is where, Rosemary, you can find a lot of those resources. There's a really cool video, and then resources are all of these links here. And they're broken out by the 3 C's. Sorry, I'm scrolling fast, which makes me kind of sick when other people do that. Sorry about that. And then if you go under tools and resources, there's a whole host of wonderful resources here, including funding your project. And then there's also the Farm to School Planning Toolkit, and this has resources around the action plan that I was talking about that the Northeast Farm to School Institute supports. So again, this is a great website with a lot of really great resources. I'm going to stop sharing because we're probably at time. All right. Thanks to everyone for participating today. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Have great conversations with your legislators, and thanks so much for joining us.